Welcome back, grappling fans, PGF fans, fans of all submission, grappling, and fight sports. This is Egghead Scramble podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you could, by the way, just go to the Colorado Wolverines Instagram. Give that a follow as well. Really appreciate that. Obviously, we need to talk about Simple Leaf CBD, our first sponsor. Eric Lehman came on here, and I think we had a great podcast last time. Definitely check them out. Really great way to help your recovery and it's overall make you healthier. So check that out when you can. Always appreciate him. We have a real treat for you all today. We have Conor and Rachel Heun. Conor is a lifelong wrestler, professional MMA fighter, and third-degree black belt from 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu. He started when he was just 4 years old in wrestling, as many people do, but he did what not a lot of people do, including winning multiple state titles and then wrestling in college, Ithaca in upstate New York. Then he came out to Colorado, picked up a little bit of jiu-jitsu, then moved out to Los Angeles, trained under Eddie Bravo, became part of the Bomb Squad, then for 7 years. Again, competed in MMA events like the International Fight League, Atlantic Sea, and Strike Force, where he was known as the Hurricane, a fan favorite. After that, he came back to Colorado and opened up 10th Planet Denver, bringing 10th Planet to Colorado. It's one of the largest gyms in the state. Of course, he also runs 10th Planet Longmont as well. So I would say that, our strategist for the Colorado Wolverines, CJ, said that Conor gives the best damn speech about creating an all-inclusive environment for those that want to get after it and train at his gym. And I really believe, we've talked about before in the podcast that being all-inclusive in jiu-jitsu is phenomenal, and that's what we're trying to do with the Colorado Wolverines. He is a full-time husband, a brother, and close to close friends that seek him out, and the mentor that people need as well. His wife, Rachel, she was a big-time tennis player, but health issues got in the way. So then she completed a master's program in nutrition science and worked on and studied functional medicine, eventually working and building supplements for GNC. She's also been a long-time nutritionist for many teams, including 10th Planet Denver, some wrestling teams, basketball teams, etc. But now she's the brains, as Conor would say, behind their new entrepreneurial venture, Skin Shield Pro. So I would like to just invite you all to, I'll let you clap at home, but let's welcome Conor and Rachel Heun.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, good morning. Hey, well, welcome to this Egghead Scramble podcast. Really great to have you. Just pillars of the jiu-jitsu community in Colorado. It really means a lot to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we're happy to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Well, we'll go back into a little bit of your background, but of course we're going to get to the Skin Shield Pro, which I'm very excited about. Already ordered my first bottle. I'm pumped to get it. There we go. Don't worry, folks. You'll be seeing that logo some more. So I guess, it all started, your journey, Conor, was with wrestling. So how'd you get into wrestling so early?
My dad was a high school coach, junior high coach. Basically, as soon as I was old enough to know anything, I was on the sides of the wrestling mats, playing with my Legos or my, action figures and just, waiting for the day that I was old enough to be able to get out there with the guys that my dad was coaching. So it was something that I wasn't pushed into. It was something that I was told, no, you're too young. No, you're too young, until finally I was 4.5 and they let me out there.
And it just never stopped.
Yeah. It's something, I tell people, grappling's not for everybody, but if it's for you, it's addicting. And, I think it's the greatest sport on the planet. I've been grappling for over 42 years. I'm nowhere near a master. I think it would take, 10 lifetimes probably to master jiu-jitsu in its entirety. I think maybe wrestling you can do in 3. It's a lot simpler. And, but yeah, just to have something that you can go out and study and train and learn every single day and be humbled every single day is really magical.
And it's a great sport. I think it was Donald Rumsfeld in his biography one sport where your individual effort is 100% responsible for how you perform?
I'm losing you, the audio.
1 second.
Oh, now you're back.
All right. You got me? No.
Yeah, much better.
Okay, there we go. Pardon me. Every once in a while, you had to unplug and replug.
No worries.
First rule of tech support: just restart. Yeah, so it's all good. But like I said, what I was saying was that wrestling is one of those great sports where what you put out is 100% responsible for what you get out of it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. I'm sure there's tremendous value in team sports. I don't have a lot of experience with that. I quit playing team sports in junior high. I played baseball. I played football. But once I got to high school, it was, cross country to get in shape for wrestling season, and then me and a couple of the guys from the team went out for the diving team because they needed divers. And that was another individual sport where, if you can hit the dive in practice, you should be able to hit it in competition. And, it's just you versus you. Those are the things that I really like because nobody's responsible for my success but myself.
Well, there you go. So, obviously wrestling, grappling, but then you started jiu-jitsu. How'd you get into jiu-jitsu? Pardon me.
1993, the first UFC came out. I remember watching that, back in the day, we'd go to Blockbuster Video and rent the UFC tapes. I'd watch them with my dad. And, I'd grown up my whole life thinking that wrestlers were the dominant species. And then, I saw what Hoist Gracie did to Dan Severn, I guess it was Dan Severn. And it changed, it was like, I need to learn whatever that it is that he's doing. And so my best friend, Tim Shirley, was my training partner on the wrestling team. We'd watch everything that we could. We bought, bag gloves because they didn't have MMA gloves back at the time. But with the bag glove, you had a free thumb. So we'd fight each other with the bag gloves and try to do the arm bars and footlocks and stuff that we saw on the TV. And, just really kind of dove into it as a fan at that point. And then once I graduated college, I was still just focused on wrestling, but I'd watch Vanderlei Silva highlights from Pride before my wrestling matches to get fired up. Mm-hmm. And, came back home to Colorado in 2002 after I graduated and first wandered into Easton Jiu Jitsu. And I was there for a little bit. And then I went to a place called Stars. That was more of an MMA training facility, kind of bounced around a couple places until I moved to LA in 2005. And that's
what took you to LA?
Say what?
What took you to LA?
I was just looking for a change of pace. My girlfriend at the time was moving out there, and it seemed like a good opportunity to get out of Colorado. I wasn't doing anything worthwhile out here. I had I had a t-shirt company that, doing silkscreen stuff, but, we were kind of just making ends meet there. So sold the t-shirt company and moved to LA, ended up getting a job selling dental equipment in a cubicle in Culver City. And, shortly thereafter, I was losing my mind. I called my college roommate, a kid by the name of Ryan Ciatoli. He was one of the, founding guys out in upstate New York in the MMA scene. He had a big gym out there for a while. But I just reached out to him because I was kind of losing my mind without a competitive outlet. And he said, "Hey, man, there's a guy out there named Eddie Bravo who's doing jiu-jitsu without the gi. It's a lot like wrestling. You should look him up." So I just, got on the, I don't know, maybe it was the Yellow Pages back then. I can't remember. But, looked him up, gave him a call. He asked me about my background. I told him I'd been wrestling since I was 4.5. He said, "Get in here." And got into the gym. Everybody in there was either, already a pro fighter, training for fights. It was a much different culture at that time. It was a real sort of fight-centered culture, and that's what I was into. And started training with Eddie. I got convinced to do my first pro MMA fight. I started training in October of 2005. I had my first fight in May of 2006. There was no amateur at the time. We went down to, where was it? I think we went down to like Temecula, and I had to hit a heavy bag for 3 minutes in front of the commission and then grapple with some guy that they had. And then they said, okay, here you go. Here's your pro card.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty wild. So yeah, no amateur experience. I had my first fight. I just knew if he was close enough to hit me, he was close enough for me to grab him. And so I, marched forward, took this guy down, punched him till he gave up his back and choked him out. And I was hooked. So I asked for leave of absence at my job to train for my second fight. They said no. I quit and went all in on professional MMA for about the next 7 years.
Man, that's wild. We mentioned a few of the promotions that you're on. So out of all the promotions, which was your favorite?
I really like the IFL. I like the team aspect of it. It's very similar to what you guys are doing with the PGF. It gave me the same feeling as being on the wrestling team, which what I was used to. It's like you're fighting individually, but you got a whole bunch of your brothers that are going into battle with you. They're fighting their own fights, but it's a shared experience. And that aspect is great. The idea that we're all going into this together. We're all responsible for ourselves. But at the end of the day, when we come out victorious, it's a team effort. We get to celebrate as a team. We get to train as a team. I think that's something that was missing from my life for so long. I think it was 2007, probably when I got into the IFL. So I hadn't trained with a team since 2002 when I graduated college.
Yeah, just having that, the band of brothers, the camaraderie, people you lean upon, people that are like screaming at the side of the mat or the cage. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like it. I tell you, anybody that I consider a close friend, I've tried to kill several times.
It's a great thing about jiu-jitsu and apparently MMA as well. So we had the wrong fight down. We thought it was the Nunes fight, but it was the Matthias fight. You actually got your jaw broken, but won anyway. Tell us about that.
Man, he was a dynamic striker. He was from Shoot Box Academy. He was a southpaw. He dropped back into an orthodox stance. He threw a lead back fist, so left hand back fist, overhand right. I ducked the overhand right. He shifted stances, throwing the overhand, and walked me into a left knee. So as I ducked the overhand, I got clipped right here in the jaw. You can see where it's like sewed on.
Yeah, dang. Okay.
So they had to sew it back on. That's why I'm missing that tooth. So yeah, split my jaw. I didn't know it was broken at first. Went back to the corner and I could stick my tongue through the side of my mouth. And I still had that tooth at the time. It wasn't that the tooth was gone. It was that the jaw was separate. And so I told one of my corner, I said, I lost my tooth. So he's looking around on the floor for my tooth. I said, I can't find it. And I bit back down into the mouthpiece and my jaw went back together. And I said, oh, I broke my jaw. He said, well, don't worry about it now. I said, okay. And, went back out there. My coach liked to give me shit. He's saying, the only reason he didn't get knocked out is because every time he was hitting you, it wasn't connected to this nerve up here. He was saying your broken jaw saved you from getting knocked out in that fight. But, I just have a belief that when you really set your mind to something, you visualize it. It was my first televised fight. There was no way that I was going down, and it didn't matter, what happened. So, I think it's just the power of the human spirit, the power of visualization and attention setting. It was like, you had to kill me if you wanted to stop me. And I was prepared to walk through fire to get where I was trying to go. And, a lot of people, when they hit you with their best shot and you're still there, they'll start to wilt. They'll start to doubt themselves. And unfortunately, I got to say, I won a lot of fights that way, where I ate somebody's best shot and they're like, how the hell is this guy still here? And then they started to lose that self-belief and doubt themselves. And then, once that doubt creeps in, it's all over.
I mean, definitely that type of grit that we're talking about with the Colorado Wolverines and the grit we believe a lot of Coloradans have. You're just the epitome of that, sir. So I got to ask, you were really sponsored by Joe Rogan?
Yeah, he was one of my first sponsors. We were training partners. Yeah, back then it was joerogan.net. Yeah, he was, training with us all the time. He was at the Bomb Squad. He was at Legends. I don't think I had really any idea of how successful he was at the time. He was just a training partner. I knew he was on Fear Factor, but I don't think I really had any idea like how rich and successful he was. But, he saw my efforts and wanted to help me out. And yeah, he was giving me, a good bit of money to put his name on my shorts and, help keep me going out there when I was, struggling and fighting. So yeah, it was great. He's an awesome guy, man.
Yeah, and I think a lot of gym owners would just say that he's been so helpful to the jiu-jitsu community because I think from the owners I've talked to, I think they will say about every third person that comes in has learned about jiu-jitsu from Joe Rogan and they want to check it out.
Yeah. He's done more to grow the community, I think, than just about anybody. Maybe him and the Gracies, right?
Yeah, of course. So talking about being a gym owner, what led you to start 10th Planet Denver?
I wanted to be a coach my entire life. My dad was a coach growing up. I just saw how many lives he was able to touch, how many people he was able to help. He really prided himself on being able to guide, young boys into becoming men, to teach grit, to teach determination, the power of stick-to-itiveness, the idea that if you never give up, you never lose. And I wanted to follow in his footsteps. He's everything to me. So the fact that jiu-jitsu got popular enough where I was able to do it and make a living, that was great. I figured I'd wind up coaching high school wrestling. I didn't really want to be a teacher, which was, what he was doing. There was a wrestling coach at Fairview who was the librarian. That's the way to do it because you're still in the school, but you don't have to teach classes. You got, a lot of time to, plan dual meets and, plan your practices and things like that. But the fact that jiu-jitsu kind of blew up to the point where I could teach this and make a decent living and provide for my family was, really just a godsend.
And people still talk about his dad all the time. Like, oh, your dad was my coach and tell him I said hi and thank you and all of that.
Yeah. I'm still, I still get people coming into my gym who either wrestled for my dad, were in his classes. I just had a guy sign up at Longmont who was one of his students at Holy Family. So yeah, I've just seen the impact that coaches can have. I think coaches probably touch more lives than just about anybody else out there. And, to be able to follow in that lineage of giving back and helping people is truly an honor.
100%. I mean, coaches and, martial arts instructors, and just, you develop people. And like you said, I know you have kids classes as well. So you're developing young people, but even, even as 40-year-old dads, you're still developing us and making us better people. So I just want to thank you for that.
Yeah, man, it's truly an honor.
So TJ said, and I think we've already covered this a little bit. He said you embody the fall 6, stand up 7 dynamic. What's that mean to you?
Well, so it's a samurai proverb, right? Fall 7, rise 8. I've got it tattooed on my chest. It's just the idea that we always get up. It's like, doesn't matter what life throws at you. If you keep getting up, you can't lose. It's like I fell short at Worlds this year. Really wanted to, sort of cement myself in history with a world title. I've been chasing titles my whole life and have I guess other people would tell you that I've won titles, but to me, I've never won anything that I was shooting for. I won Pee-wee titles. I won like freestyle and Greco titles or whatever, but I was a runner-up in the state finals in Colorado in high school. I was a national qualifier in college, but never placed. I wanted to be a Strike Force champion. I wanted to be an Elite XC champion. Close as I got, I guess I lost a split decision to KJ Noons. He was a champ. But I've continued to fall short, to fail forward, I guess, with every goal I've ever set for myself. I was trying to win gold this year and fell short at bronze, but I was back on the horse. I was competing yesterday. The local grappling industries, I think it's just fall 7, rise 8 just means that we don't give up. We don't quit. And if you never quit, you can't really lose because you're still in the fight.
No, definitely. TJ told me that you got a hip replacement, but still came back and went to IBJJF Worlds and competed there.
Man, I've had 2 hip replacements. I'm on my 2nd set of metal hips.
Good Lord. I think we've already felt a little bit about your mentality and your mantra there, but how?
Yeah, so I, basically my hips failed when I was fighting MMA. My last fight, the only time I got stopped, in my opinion, the only fight I ever lost. Before that last fight, I was just a little behind on some of the cards when the time ran out.
There you go.
But, got stopped in my last fight, went in, repairs, joint debridement on both sides. I had a procedure called a PAO where they cut my pelvis in 3 places. They rotated it forward. They screwed it back together. Unfortunately, they had never dealt with bone density of a lifelong wrestler, so they broke 2 of the surgical saws during the procedure. Took 6 hours longer than it was supposed to. I lost all the blood in my body. I had to have everything transfused. I was in the hospital for 8 days following it. It was this long, grueling recovery. 2 years after that, I had no relief. And so they went in and did what's called Birmingham hip resurfacing. It was a bilateral procedure, metal and metal hips, cobalt and chromium devices on both sides. That was in 2016. And I returned to competition maybe 6 months after that set of hip replacements. But what they didn't tell me is that a month after I'd got them, they were recalled due to cobalt poisoning. So in 2022, I was having some issues with my hips. I went into the doctor to have them take a look at them. They didn't want to look at the hips at all. They just said, go get a blood test. I got a blood test, came back with elevated levels of cobalt and chromium in my blood, basically toxic heavy metal poisoning. So they said, those both got to come out. So they went in and did a bilateral total hip revision, pulled the metal, pulled the parts out of both sides, replaced them with what was supposed to be titanium and polyethylene vinyl implants. Went back, got some levels checked, still had some elevated levels of cobalt. Talked to the doctor. He said, well, you don't even have that much cobalt in you anymore. I said, what do you mean that much? Well, there's a cobalt inner liner. So I walked out of the doctor's office. I haven't been back since. But the hips work good enough,
Sure.
I guess I'm 3.5, almost 4 years out from that surgery now. And, I just think about the fact, I'll get emotional talking about this, but just the fact that I can compete, that I can show up, that I can put it on the line, that I'm so blessed that my body works good enough. And there's so many people out there who have these self-defeating beliefs. They have these, whether it's something that they were taught because they didn't have strong leadership in their life or whatever it is. There's so many people that believe that they're weaker than they really are. And I just think that by me going out and showing that I can have, 8 hip surgeries and take bronze at Worlds, I can continue to show up and teach 6 days a week, that I can continue to, to test myself, to put it on the line. It just shows those people that a lot of their beliefs are self-limiting and self-imposed, and that if they really decide that they want to change their life and do something different, that they can, because the body is incredibly strong. The mind is weak, and our bodies can do things far greater than we imagine. And unless you've had somebody telling you that, like I have since I was 4.5, it can be real hard to step into that. So when somebody has an excuse, they can't really give it to me, because I've had over 20 surgeries, every joint in my body, but my wrists, ankles, and spine, multiple elbow, multiple shoulder, both knees, both hips. And it's like, if I can still do it, you can still do it. And I think that's inspiring to a lot of people, and it helps people push through whatever their perceived limitations are. And it's like, man, if I can do that, I feel like I'm having a positive impact in the world.
Yeah, and he's kind of used his injuries as like a way to learn new jujitsu in a way too,
Yeah,
which
100%.
he teaches a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, my jiu-jitsu would suck if it wasn't for injury, because I like winning, especially when I was young.
Yeah.
It's like I've got to take down a knee cut guard pass and a Darce choke, and it's like, man, I would have just run that my whole life. And it's like, I had a fight where I broke my arm, or had it bent backwards or dislocated, whatever. So I couldn't frame for a while because like the pressure coming in against my wrist, that made my elbow feel like it was going to explode. So really embrace the clinch-based style of grappling that Eddie teaches. There were no frames. Everything was bottom, chest to chest, half guard if I wound up on bottom. Okay. And so I was forced to learn and embody new techniques. I popped my LCL on my right leg, which was my rubber guard leg at the time. So I'd learned to play it on my left side. Right now I've got real limited hip mobility and strength, makes guard work really challenging. So I've developed a style of guard where I hold on to my right foot when I'm in the guard, because I can't control that leg independently. But by grabbing it, I realize like that makes a really strong frame. If I'm holding, that foot, it's like it's forced me to evolve. It's forced my game to develop in a way that it never would have without injury. Like I would be a pretty one-dimensional grappler, but when you systematically take away, okay, your left arm doesn't work, now your right arm doesn't work, now your left knee doesn't work, now your right knee doesn't work, it forces you to develop. And my attitude of going back to the mats regardless of what's going on physically and finding a workaround has allowed me to develop into a pretty decent all-around grappler. So
I mean, constraints-based training is a big rave right now, and apparently your body just did it for you naturally.
Sure. Uh-huh.
All right, so talking about things that people are afraid to do. Obviously, we see your hoodie there, and a lot of gym owners are afraid to open a second location. Now you got 10th Planet Longmont. What led you to open that?
Really just wanting to share the life that I have with the people that have supported me and that love me. The ability for me to teach jiu-jitsu and have a life, where that's all that I do, is a tremendous blessing. And I've got, a couple of my students, Adam Davila, Sheila Davila, they teach a lot of the classes over at Longmont. They teach the kids classes, the evening classes. Del Jolly's in there teaching my 6 a.m.s. Just, really, I had people that wanted to live the same life that I live, and I had the ability to make that happen for them. So I said, let's run it. It's certainly not a solo venture. I split my time between Denver and Longmont. I teach in Denver Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I teach in Longmont Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. But, the ability to help, coaches grow into that role of running the academy, to give Adam and Sheila and Del the opportunity to touch lives the way that I have, that was really what it was about. And I think that when you go into things with a positive attitude and the idea of giving back, that the universe supports that stuff. So I was confident in my ability to grow it. I was confident in those coaches' ability to, follow my lead and do the right things. And I think that when you take care of people, you do the right things, you put people ahead of profits, you're going to be successful no matter what. It's just a matter of time. And the fact that I've got now a great group of people supporting me running the school, and that, Adam and Sheila are able to make their living teaching jiu-jitsu, that Del's able to be up there, 3 days a week, 6 a.m. first thing in the morning, leading athletes, man, that's a hell of a gift.
Definitely. And, something you talk about there about, a lot of entrepreneurs have been told to read The Alchemist. And it talks about the idea of once you decide something, what you're going to do, then the universe conspires
It
to
does. Yes,
assist you.
sir.
And once my wife Brittany and I and CJ, our son, decided to buy the last franchise of the PGF, it really has seemed that way. That all kinds of people have just come out of the woodwork to help us. It's been amazing. So, talking about my better half, Rachel, we've been kind of like monopolizing the time here. We'll get you in 1 second. I have to ask one more question though, because I am retiring from the Marine Corps and coming out to Denver, in a few months, and so figuring out where I'm going to train and things like that. And I have to ask, what is this Friday night open mat roll and rave? I'm hearing about?
Yeah, people ask me how I got into that. So basically, the cobalt poisoning gave me something called Morvan syndrome. And if you look it up, if you let Google tell it, it's a fatal neurological condition. But I've never been one to listen to anything that the doctors say. I'm certainly not succumbing to that or believing any of that. But I have to get something called IVIG. It's intravenous immunoglobulin every 3 weeks, where I get somebody else's immune system. I deal with muscle spasms, muscle cramping. I was like shaving in the shower and my bicep spasmed to the point that it detached from my shoulder off, like what happened with CJ, where it pulled the labrum.
Sure. Wow.
So like real severe muscle spasms due to the cobalt poisoning. And there was a period in time, in 2022 when I had, the replacements, the old ones taken out, the new ones going in, the recovery was real long and brutal. I didn't know if I'd ever walk again, let alone grapple again. And I realized that everything that I had in my life outside of my beautiful wife that makes me happy was physical, except for music. So snowboarding, yoga, jiu-jitsu, and going to concerts, going to see EDM shows at Red Rocks. Those are the things that light me up. And I said, well, all of those require an able body pretty much except for music production, DJing. So I invested in a DJ coach, a guy by the name of Walt White out here in Colorado. His wife, Jenny, and I took a yoga teacher training together back in like 2016. And, so I knew them. He's a DJ coach, started learning how to DJ. And it was just sort of the recognition that one day my body may not work the way I need it to based on this condition. And if that happens, I still need a creative outlet. I still need a way to connect with people. I still need a way to impact people positively. And I figured that music was the best way to do that. If you're at a concert and everybody's vibing and the DJ is great, it feels just like a wonderful community, and it's a joyful place. And I said, well, if I can't teach jiu-jitsu anymore, I want to be able to influence people in a positive way. So started learning to DJ, and then I figured, well, let's incorporate all the things that I love. So yeah, last Friday of every month, this coming Friday, we've got the Roll and Rave going at 10 Planet Denver. So I've got a friend who, helped me build out the gym. We got lasers, we got lights, we got the DJ setup. We got, it's a vibe out there.
It's really fun. Yeah. The lasers are wild, and it's cool because then he gets to do the two things that he really loves together.
Yeah. And it's, it's just a way to like lighten the mood at the open mat. It's super fun. We do 20 rounds. That's a ton. But you roll a couple rounds, relax a couple rounds, vibe out to the music, make a new friend. It's just a way to sort of combine two things that I really love. And, really it was a way to continue to give myself a creative outlet if at some point I'm no longer able to do, jiu-jitsu, snowboarding, yoga, those other things because of this condition.
Sure. And Rachel, so you were an athlete as well. You were big into tennis. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I started tennis when I was really young. It was the only sport that I did that really stuck, because everything else I just didn't enjoy. I wasn't really good at it. So that got me into really just being aware of my body and what I put in my body, and I went through a period where I kind of had some disordered eating and anorexia. And then I realized I couldn't be a good athlete doing that because you need to fuel your body. So that led me to get into nutrition and learn how to heal my body through food and supplements and all that stuff. And then I just loved that world. And that's why I got the master's in it.
Sure. And was it while you're in your master's program? Is that the first time you started working as a nutritionist for athletes?
Yeah. So that was an amazing experience. I lived in New Jersey at the time, so I was going to Montclair State, and I was also working part-time at a gym called Impact Zone in New Jersey, and they have like a ton of professional athletes there. They had like, I worked with, I don't know if I could like say names, but I worked with some baseball players, some basketball players, some football players. They had a wrestling program there, so I was working with kids wrestling, which was really cool too, because everybody, all their needs were so different. So that really gave me a lot of experience with working with different people and understanding athletes and what they need,
Sure.
especially, with the wrestlers too. I wanted to help them to cut weight in a healthier way. So I felt good about that because there were a lot of young wrestlers, and I felt like I was having a good impact on them.
Yeah, definitely. So then you went to work in the supplement industry?
Yeah, so I didn't even know. I've always loved supplements. I feel like I'm a nerd, and I would kind of, like make up my own supplements and do the research and see what combinations were best and stuff like that. So then I didn't know that I could work in that industry because I didn't have a background specifically in chemistry, but realized through talking to different people and interviewing at different companies that I could do it as a nutrition scientist. So I worked at Danone for a little bit and did claims, like helped to research claims for them. Okay. So I got an understanding of that, and that was really helpful. And then I liked that. And then I moved over to GNC and started to, I was a product designer there. So I helped with, I formulated some of their gut health supplements and things like that. And I loved that so much.
She's got a couple products on the shelf at GNC. They're Amp Greens, other
Vital Greens.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Biotic.
Yeah. And it really, I had to do a lot of research on probiotics and on different herbs and stuff like that. I helped with the herbs line and everything. So it just gave me a lot of experience in that realm. It also helped me understand how the supplement business worked. Sure. And all the different regulations and guidelines and all of that.
Well, I think that kind of brings us to one of the reasons we're here. I mean, obviously, you all are married, and so we have the marriage of the brains of the scientist and the nutritionist, and the grit of the competitor here. But now you have your own new venture. So how did that start? And just tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So I was just overworking a 9-to-5, and I saw he had his own thing, and that really inspired me. So I talked to him about how I wanted to start my own supplement business, but I just didn't really know what to do. And it's so saturated. Like there's so many different, proteins and
pre-workout.
Exactly. Because that was my first thought, is like, oh, I'll make some products to put in his gyms, but it's hard to really stand out unless you have a ton of money to put up front into marketing. So then he gave me the idea.
Yeah. I mean, basically we were, she wanted to get out of GNC. She wanted to do her own thing, but we both sort of recognize that it's, a red ocean, just meaning that, it's cutthroat. There's 1,000 different supplement companies investing thousands, millions of dollars into marketing. We don't have a name. And, so we're trying to find a way to allow her to use her skills in product development and supplement formulation, but didn't really know where to go. And then we were heading into a yoga class. We go to a 90-minute hot yoga every Saturday. And right before we walked into class, I got a text from one of my students who had ringworm on his arm. And, hey, coach, can you pause my membership? I got ringworm. And, this, I've got, 350 students in Denver, over 100 students in Longmont. So with that number of people, no matter how clean you keep the mats, no matter what you're doing, you're going to run into skin issues in the grappling arts. And so I had like a pic on my phone that was like, I used an app called Pick Stitch to put multiple pictures into one image. And it was of all the products that I wanted him to pick up at Whole Foods or Natural Grocers or whatever in order to make sure that he doesn't get ringworm again. So it was, probiotics, it was oil of oregano, it was olive leaf extract, ginger, garlic, zinc, all of these things that boost immunity. But the deal was that in order to buy all of those products, even though, you might be picking up a 6-month supply or something, it was going to be, $300 out of pocket immediately to sort of get on the protocol. And, you're putting drops in water, you're taking a bunch of pills, it's what I've been doing my whole life to make sure that, I'm healthy and I'm ready to go. I've got a pretty solid supplement regimen that, she has helped me dial in since we've been together. But, so we went to yoga, I sent him this picture, and then I was laying in Savasana, just laying on my mat afterwards. And it sort of came to me, Skin Shield Pro, we need to create a probiotic, antifungal, antimicrobial gut and immune support supplement specifically for grapplers, where rather than sending them to Whole Foods to buy a laundry list of products, I can say, hey, are you taking Skin Shield Pro?
Yeah.
And here it is. We carry it in the gym. And so that's how the idea was born. And then, I shared that, and then she went to work, for months and months of research, reading the literature and, doing the grunt work, the science behind it all to come up with what we think is just a knockout formulation to keep people healthy and on the mats.
Yeah. And just, figuring out what the right dosages were, what's efficacious, but also safe, because, the herbs in that are really strong. So I wanted to make sure that it was healthy and safe for people to take on a daily basis as like a prophylactic kind of, but also could be something that if somebody does have an issue already, that it could help them to, heal from that quicker.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you take 2 pills. I take 2 of them every morning. And, but the deal is that if something pops up on your skin, I'll bump it up to 6 pills a day. And she formulated it so that we're not over, that if you're doing that, it doesn't say that on the label, but if something pops up, you can take it up to 3 times a day and you're not going to go over, the dosage on anything. At 6 pills a day, you're kind of maxing out your zinc, which is huge for immunity. But, so it works real well preventatively, to, keep people healthy, keep people trained, and avoid those embarrassing conversations with your significant other. Usually, grapplers understand that it's, kind of a part of the sport, that it may happen from time to time, but, luckily with Skin Shield Pro, it doesn't have to.
And then also, just to add one more thing, like a lot of people will end up getting something, whether it's staph or ringworm or whatever, and then they have to be put on antibiotics and antifungals. And then that makes your immune system and gut health, worse. And then you're at a perfect position to continue to get it, and it becomes this cycle. So that's also why we wanted to make it so that people can avoid having to go through that.
I mean, you look at Gordon Ryan, right? I mean, everybody knows that the Blue Basement has a staph problem. There's other gyms around the country that notoriously have these issues. And then he gets on these, heavy duty courses of antibiotics that's damaged his gut now to the point where he's retired from competition due to gut and intestinal issues that could have been prevented by taking a product like we make. And then now he's, it's like one of the greatest grapplers of all time, if not the greatest no-gi grappler of all time, is out of the sport because of gut issues caused by antibiotics. So if we can allow people to take this daily to prevent the use of antibiotics, which ultimately destroy your body's own defenses, we're helping the community as a whole.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I mean, and anyone that's had to take a lot of different antibiotics can be susceptible to that. My wife actually has, we believe, some gastroparesis issues and some other gut stuff. And so I'm definitely going to be sharing my Skin Shield Pro with her, because I think it's going to be very, very effective and good. And I mean, obviously, it's also really cool because, Rachel, one of your jobs was studying efficacy and of claims. And so, you've really kind of taken it a number of ways. One, you made sure you at least have that minimal effective dose, which like Timothy Ferriss talks about in his 4-Hour Body book. But also at the same time, you have a supplement that can both help you, everyday prophylactic. But then as Conor was saying, should something pop up, because hey, it can, all right, just take it 3 times and bam, there you go. So that's just phenomenal. So I think people were probably figuring this out a little bit this time, but obviously we'd like to very much announce that Conor and Rachel and their Skin Shield Pro are the second sponsors of the Colorado Wolverines, and we are very pumped to have you on board. Again, both the grit of Conor and the brains of Rachel, because hey, it helps to have a 20-pound brain. I've heard it's good. So, and again, we've we were looking for Colorado businesses, and related to grappling, and this is perfect. And we're looking for ways to, to help our grapplers out, because the PGF, it's a grueling 5-week event. 3 matches a day for every competitor, 5 weeks, and hopefully they get 4 more matches, or one of them at least, on that final 6th week, because that's when we have our playoffs. And so that means a lot to us. And also, coming aboard, Skin Shield Pro, in your company is sponsoring the Wolverines, and you're covering the house. So it's one of the great things about the Wolverine, about PGF, is that, not only do we make sure that everyone's a professional, so everyone gets paid, that's a part of it. They also, okay, so she's going to bring up a photo here, I'm guessing. But we also, this year, everyone is getting a place to live. And so that's huge. Hey, there we go. All right, you got it. So obviously, there we go. We got the Skin Shield Pro there, and the Colorado Wolverines. And so again, it'll be the Skin Shield Pro Airbnb, if you will. So all the grapplers will make sure to thank you all for your generosity and for being on the team. So what made you decide to sponsor the Colorado Wolverines?
Well, we had talked early on about how we want to be really, specific about the kinds of advertising we do and all of that, because our target market is so niche, which is great, because there's not really anything else like this on the market. So we had talked early on about sponsoring something like this, but the opportunity hadn't arose yet. And then when it did, when Donald reached out to you, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff sort of happened serendipitously. I'd reached out to Brandon about it, and to sponsor the PGF as a whole was a little too big of an investment for us to make.
Sure.
But then, everything just made sense. You reached out to me, so we had communicated, about the Wolverines before this opportunity came up. Donald is a good friend of mine. I had the opportunity to coach him at Pans to his gold medal, just that he was a Colorado guy. I ran into him, saw him out there, said, "Hey, do you got a coach?" And he didn't. So I was able to, get a little bit of his glory when he won Pans. Then the fact, you brought him on. Caleb Crump is a good friend of mine. We go snowboarding together all the time. We've competed against each other. I absolutely love Caleb, what he stands for. And then I saw you brought on TJ Steinbeck. He's a world champion. He's a training partner of mine. He's somebody that I often reach out to about business ideas. He's an absolute genius.
Yes.
It just all made sense. I mean, you, Brandon, TJ, Caleb, Donald, everybody who involved with it were people that we already loved and respected. And we just, took it as a sign. That's kind of what we were waiting for.
Yeah, we pretty much, once Donald was talking to us about it, I was like, let's just do it.
Yeah, she pulled the trigger. She said, let's run it.
Yeah.
Definitely love it. So I, again, it means a lot to me. The guys are helping us out, the Wolverines, and obviously it means a lot to them because you're going to make sure they have a great place to stay, and that again, that's huge. Again, we're excited to have you on board, and obviously this audience is your audience. It's very niche, and the people that pay attention to this podcast. So, is there anything you'd like to tell our audience?
We're going to be sponsoring the Colorado Jiu Jitsu Club. They've got an event coming up here shortly. We're going to be there. So if you're in Colorado, check out CJJC. Coach Steve Poprock, he puts that on. They have a great promotion. Caleb has competed on that in the past. I would just say, continue to support jiu-jitsu. And if you care about your gut and immune health, put an order in for Skin Shield Pro. It's, it gives you a fighting chance in the battle against it. You basically look at, staph as an invading bacterial army. And if you don't have your own army built up in your gut, 70 to 80% of your gut, of your immunity lives in your gut. If you haven't done what's necessary to fortify your own army to withstand that invader, then you're going to be in trouble, especially when you're cutting weight, especially when you're traveling, you're worn down, you're overtrained. All of those things can create a perfect storm for something to take you out of the biggest matches of your life. So taking Skin Shield Pro, it's, it seems like a no-brainer to keep you on the mats and keep you training. If this is what you're serious about, there's no reason not to take it.
Yeah. And our Instagram is at Skin Shield Pro, and I'm always on there. So if anyone has any questions, like, about the gut, about the immune system, about the product, you can ask anything. I love talking about it.
That's awesome. So please definitely go check out their website, order yourself a bottle, and start building up your immune system, so you don't have to deal with the nastiness that is all the skin stuff that just kind of comes with the mats. But it doesn't have to if you prepare yourself.
Yeah, I mean, the deal is, right, it's like you need healthy bacteria to be able to fight off the invading bacteria, invading fungus, things like that. And it's like your coaches are doing a great job of cleaning the mats. I don't know a single gym owner that doesn't prioritize the cleanliness of the facility, but the bottom line is it's body to body contact. Yep. And there are other microbes and other fungus that you're going to encounter. And unless you strengthened yourself to win that fight, you're going to be in trouble.
Well, I hope that we get a chance to see you on the couches around the PGF at some point during the season. Otherwise, I will definitely make sure to see you when I move to Colorado, and looking forward to the roll and rave.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
You going to be here this weekend?
I will not. Again, I'm still stationed here in beautiful Southern California. At least it's kind of nice and warm.
Yeah, it's 1 degree where we are. At least it was this morning.
Yeah.
You may want to pick another time.
Yeah. CJ makes fun of me because he goes to college up in Minnesota, and it's like minus 30, minus 40. And
it's warmed up. It's 28 now.
So there you go.
Real warm.
There you go. Very nice. But no, we're moving out this summer.
Awesome.
So I can get the 2 younger kids set up for high school before the school year starts, and
great.
We'll be there soon. But again, hey, Skin Shield Pro, I'm so happy for you, both in your 10th Planet Longmont, as CJ has there on the screen, but also your new business, Skin Shield Pro. I think it's going to do a lot of good for the community and our grapplers. And again, I can't thank you enough for sponsoring the Wolverines.
Of course, our pleasure.
And of course, thank you for coming on here, because it was so great to see your faces and to get to talk back and forth. I mean, we've done it on the phone, but it feels a little more personal. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Appreciate you.
All right. Definitely. All right. Well, thank you. We'll see you hopefully on the couches. I appreciate you being here, and I'll just say goodbye, and then I'll wrap this up. Thank you. All right. So PGF fans, grappling fans, really appreciate you joining us today. Obviously, you've just had a great interview with some real quality people. They're all about jiu-jitsu in Colorado and the Wolverines and supporting us. And so I'd ask you, please support them, but also support your immunity, your gut health, and support your body and fighting off all those microbes. So we had another 20-pound brain on the show today. It's pretty cool. But we can't all have 20-pound brains. So I'll help you with that as much as I can. See you next week.